Good evening from the News Radio 1120 and 93.7 FM KPNW studios. I'm Hacksaw Jones. I'm also known as Bill Lundin. I host the Wake Up Call Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 here on KPNW, streaming worldwide at kpnw.com. And tonight's news brought to you by Dr. Michael Bratland of Chris Dental, the big guy, who, by the way, if you become one of his patients, he gives you his cell phone number. Because you never know on a weekend when you might break a tooth, and that's an important thing to have. All right, well, I can tell you that the temperature is below 100 degrees today, which is nice after a number of days of heat in excess of 100 degrees, which has had people just wandering around going, what is going on? Whoa, what is up with this weather? And I think, finally, we just have to look at it and just say exactly what it is. Just be honest and upfront about the hot weather, and that is, it's summer. All right, here's a look at the stories we're following. Oh, the sky is falling. Right now, the sky is falling. You know, even though Democratic lawmakers in Washington, D.C. have been lining up to tell Joe Biden to drop out of the presidential race, even though the punditry is saying, you know, you need to go, Joe, you would think it would be and has been enough of a deal by now in the aftermath of the debate that the media really just couldn't push this discussion and ramp it up anymore or get any more frantic about it. Well, not so. One man has pushed the discussion to an entirely new level of hyperventilation, and that man is George Clooney. Yeah. In an op-ed that ran in the New York Times Wednesday, Clooney implored Biden to step down, and the media went into oh my God mode. Yes, a hyper-rich Hollywood Democrat that used to make good movies is now supposedly, according to the media, the deal breaker. So much so that the media has stopped even following stopped its vigilance in following Biden, trying to get him to face plant during this week's NATO summit. Wednesday, they didn't even talk about the NATO summit. No, not during that news cycle. It was Clooney causing them to rend their sackcloths and smear themselves in ashes, predicting the end of the world as we know it. So if you read the op-ed piece from Mr. I Am Clooney, there is actually one little bitty factoid in there, at least for me, that stood out from the rest of the fawning adoration dripping from the op-ed, even though it's beseeching Biden to bow out. And I'm going to quote it. Now, this is what George Clooney wrote. It's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at a fundraiser was not the Joe Big Effin' Deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate. I mean, it wasn't just a spell. He further wrote, was he tired? Yes. A cold? Maybe. But our party leaders need to stop telling us that 51 million people didn't see what we just saw. Oh, run, Joe, run. It's an election year, of course. And it was kind of interesting, I mean, speaking about the debate and about President Biden, because of course, all politics is local. And during the 4th of July weekend, 4th of July politics came home to Oregon in a big way. A lot of flag waving and people saying, vote for me. And one of those was incumbent Representative Val Hoel of the Oregon 4th Congressional District. She's a first-termer who is looking to keep her seat against Republican challenger Monique Despain in the November elections. Now, over the 4th of July weekend, she was all over local media and was sharing her thoughts on President Joe Biden's woeful showing in the presidential debate. Representative Hoel said the debate was, and I'll quote her, a disappointment from both candidates. And despite calls from some Democrats for Joe Biden to step aside in his candidacy, Hoel claims that Biden is still the best nominee for the Democratic Party and the presidency despite his debate performance. But George Clooney, he knows. Are you going to feel like you have egg on your face now, Val? Because George said. Hoyle's Republican opponent, Monique Despain, was also out there during the 4th of July weekend and talked about the presidential debate, saying this country is in a crisis and its leadership is failing. She doesn't think that Biden can lead. So, some advocates are waiting word on whether they've gathered enough valid signatures to qualify their initiatives for the November 5th general election. Now, I think we've talked about this one previously. One of the proposed measures would give $750 to each and every Oregonian once a year. And when I say every Oregonian, I mean it includes babies. If you're alive and breathing in Oregon, you would get $750 every year. And you might think, oh, they're going to give us a tax break? Oh, no. No, actually. What they're going to do is fund it with a 3% corporate activities tax paid by businesses with annual Oregon business activity of at least $25 million. And the law sets $30,000 as the minimum tax. $30,000. The other proposed measure would bar cannabis businesses from interfering with union organizing efforts of their employees. I don't want to talk about that one. I want to talk about the $750 check. So, assuming that the numbers are correct, if you look at Oregon's population, which is now a little over 4 million people, and you do the numbers, that means that this tax is going to be sucking up over $3,144,000,000 plus dollars a year. That's a lot of taxes. And that's a really good reason to come to Oregon and start a business so that you can essentially give every Oregonian $750 a year because a federal judge in Seattle earlier this week heard a case from an Oregon mom who was denied the ability to become a foster parent, and we're talking about Jessica Bates. Now, she filed a complaint against DHS last year. I wonder how many days she had to stand in line for that. She claims the agency denied her application because of her religious beliefs. Now, Oregon law, yes, this is true, requires all applicants to support the sexual orientation and gender identity of children, among other things. Gender identity is, well, I may have this thing, but I'm so pretty. According to the court filings, Bates says the policy conflicts with her faith, and she wants the court to allow her to obtain her certification. Oral arguments were heard. It'll probably be a month or two before we get a verdict. And since it was in Seattle, and since that particular judge was, well, shall we say, a Democratic appointee, yeah, she's probably lost. One of the things that's kind of interesting is the Oregon State Parks Department has spent a lot of money and a lot of effort trying to get people go out into the woods, go out into the outdoors, go out there, be an Oregonian, go outside, go camping, go fishing. And in the process, they continually raise the cost of hunting permits, raise the cost of your fishing licenses. Oh, and now the Oregon Parks Department is proposing an increase in how much it would cost to go camping. Now, for example, a full hookup campsite, which, it's a full hookup. You got electricity, you got sewage, you got water. It would increase to $52 a day. The top end for a tent site would increase from $22 a day to $29. And the 25% out-of-state surcharge that right now is only charged to RVs would expand to tent camping. You remember at one point that the reason that people went camping, other than the fact that they liked being outdoors, is because it was a vacation that you could take that was actually pretty affordable. You go toss up your tent for $5, $10, $15 a day, and you take the entire family out there. Now, okay, so you want to go camping? It's going to cost you $150 for the week. A lot of families, thank you economy, thank you inflation, thank you overtaxation by our overlords in state and federal government. For a lot of folks, that's kind of a deal breaker. But hey, it's the Oregon State Parks Department. But fortunately, they're taking comments on the proposal until the end of August. And if you follow the way that Oregon government works, they take comments on their ludicrous proposals, and then they just do them anyway. In other words, yeah, we'll give you a chance to say whatever you want it is, and then... Did I actually do that? I did. All right. I think our final story is going to be this one. And this is a story from Springfield, Oregon, which is right across the highway from Eugene, Oregon, from whence I broadcast. And this is a story that is starting to get traction in the national news. And it was because a cartel has been broken up by the Springfield Police Department. Shout out to the Springfield Police Department. The cartel is a Lego cartel. Yes, Legos, the things that hurt when you step on them. At least 4,153 stolen Lego sets valued at over $200,000 were recovered after a 3-month-long organized crime investigation, and it revealed that a store owner was purchasing sets from an organized theft ring. That, according to the Springfield Police Department, an organized Lego theft ring. 47-year-old Ammon Hendrickson is facing at least one charge so far of organized retail theft after he bought stolen Lego sets from thieves who stole them from Springfield and Eugene area stores like Target, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, and Fred Meyer. Albert Nash, an alleged partner and employee of Hendrickson, is also facing charges for the retail crime bust. So Hendrickson owns a toy and Lego store called Brick Builders in Eugene. And Sergeant Kyle Potter, who oversees Springfield's Police Crime Reduction Unit, said the investigation into the alleged thefts spanned, like I said earlier, 3 months. So during the investigation, police actually started staking places out. And they witnessed, surreptitiously, the suspected Lego thieves leaving retail stores after robbing them of high-priced Lego sets, and then followed them. And where did they go? Straight to Brick Builders, your Lego dealer. And then they turned around and left with cash in hand. So the police, at one point, after watching this, decided, let's have a chat with our Lego thieves. Let's find out what may be going on. Now, according to police, they say that the people that were out there stealing the sets were actually really irritated by Henriksen because of how little he was paying them.